Okay, thanks for joining us. Can I say that as a result of today, it has been terrific to be able to talk with people on the ground at Fitzroy Crossing, communities who have been doing extremely tough, but communities that are resilient, communities that are determined to fight back and to rebuild the communities. We've seen massive infrastructure damage. We've seen people who have lost just about everything as a result of this 1 in 100 year flood. We've seen massive infrastructure damage, particularly to the crossings into Fitzroy Crossing, that will take some time to repair. But today as well, we've had immediate announcement about support that's needed on the ground to help people be able to build back. That support is emergency financial assistance. It's also support for people to rebuild their housing, as well as to look at emergency support for contents as well. In addition to that, as a result of the Commonwealth taking action, we now have, by the end of today, 8 Australian Defence Force aircraft, 3 fixed-wing aircraft and 5 helicopters available, making a difference here on the ground. By tomorrow there will be 200 ADF personnel on the ground making a difference. And I do want to pay tribute to all the emergency services personnel as well as the volunteers who have been able to thank during the visit here in Broome and to the Kimberley, who are doing just an extraordinary job. One of the things that I find is that at the worst of times, at the most difficult of issues being confronted, Australians show the best of their character. They pitch in to help their fellow Australians, and that is what we are seeing here. And the Albanese government, the government that I'm proud to lead, will stand with you if you are facing a natural disaster, no matter where you are in Australia. That is something that we have done now in too many places, tragically, in New South Wales, in Victoria, in Tasmania, in South Australia, and here in the Kimberley in Western Australia. And that's something that my government will continue to do. And it's been a great privilege to be able to talk with people on the ground here firsthand, to hear the issues that they're dealing with, and to be talking to the people who will be delivering those services to make a difference to people's lives. Premier McGowan.
Thanks, Prime Minister. Can I firstly thank the Prime Minister for coming to the Kimberley yesterday and today to observe the flood damage and to meet the community during a very difficult time. The Prime Minister and the other ministers and the member for the Kimberley, Davina Dana, and myself and Senator Dodson went to Fitzroy this morning. Met with the local community. Obviously it's been a very difficult period and many homes are damaged. What was noticeable was the damage to infrastructure. The roads and the bridges were heavily damaged, and that's going to take some time to repair. That's going to be difficult over a longer period of time than we would hope, because getting those things fixed will be difficult, but we'll put every resource we can into getting them fixed as soon as we can. We can't provide a time frame on that, but that's going to affect travel and a range of things through the Kimberley for some time to come. But there's apart from putting every effort we can into it, I just acknowledge it's going to take some time. Many people's homes have been damaged, and obviously there's assessments going on as we speak to ensure that we get those homes assessed, and then over time we can get those homes reoccupied and get people support to get new bedding and new electrical appliances and the like. So that will take some time as well, but that process is ongoing as we speak. We also have a whole range of people out there, the Australian Defence Force, the volunteers, they're from all over Western Australia, the DFES personnel are up there, communities, Department of Communities personnel, they're all up there providing support to people, the people flying in and out in aircraft, providing supplies and the like. It's actually quite a logistical exercise, a huge exercise is going on to support Fitzroy and surrounding remote communities as we speak. And I'd like to thank each and every one of those people. It's obviously tiring and exhausting work in a very hot and humid environment, so they're doing a terrific job in difficult circumstances. Some, as the Prime Minister said, the ADF people have come from the eastern states across here, middle of the Christmas holidays, to help out. And I'd like to especially thank them, but also all the other personnel from around the state who've gone there to assist with the recovery effort as well. The state Commonwealth's disaster recovery funding arrangements have kicked in. That's something by which the state and the Commonwealth will jointly fund the recovery of these communities over coming weeks, months and potentially beyond. And that's something that we will jointly support to make sure that Fitzroy and other communities build back as well or better than they currently are at. So that's something that will be ongoing. We had a meeting with a broad group of community members, heard all of their concerns. Some of them we can solve pretty quickly, some will take longer, but we're very much listening and very much keen to resolve the issues as best we can, as quickly as we can. I'll hand back to the Prime Minister for questions.
Thanks very much. Questions?
Talk through some of those concerns raised by the community members.
Well, the community members raised the full range of concerns, as you'd expect. For some who are from remote communities around Fitzroy Crossing, it was about how they get back into their home. For others, it was about, for example, there's an issue with motor vehicles. How do they get the motor vehicles repaired so that that can then assist further recovery elements? They're keen to make sure that power and access to basic services can be restored so that they can get back into their homes as well. There are major challenges being faced, but I believe this community was incredibly resilient. They're positive about the future. They want to work together, and there was that real sense of community and belonging. They're very proud of Fitzroy Crossing and the community that they've built, and they just want it to get back to normal as soon as possible.
In really simple terms, can you just talk us through how people can access this relief?
Sure. I might ask Murray, the Minister, to go through some of that detail.
Sure. In simple terms, the easiest way for people to access that is through the Western Australian Department of Communities. They're actively getting the processes up and running, including intending to send people out to Fitzroy Crossing and some of the affected communities to assist people to apply for grants. We want to make this system as easy as possible for people and not bury them in paperwork. So we're looking and working collectively with the state government to make sure that there are personnel on the ground. Could I just mention one other form of assistance that the federal government is making available today in the affected council areas is the disaster recovery allowance. That is a 13-week payment that is available at the job seeker rate for people who aren't able to get to their work or their business because of floods, either because the roads are cut off or the business that they work in is damaged. That money can be available now to people through the Services Australia website and hotline. And also, just putting my agriculture hat on briefly, we've had some discussions over the weekend with the Kimberley-Pilbara Cattlemen's Association. Obviously, there's likely to be extremely severe impacts on cattle properties with a loss of stock. We're working through what the exact form of damage is, but one of the other assistance measures that's been announced today by our two governments are freight subsidies for farmers to obtain, for instance, to be able to transport fodder as well. And again, that kind of assistance can be accessed through the Department of Communities.
While you're there, maybe just on the livestock, do you have any idea how many cattle or percentage of cattle will be lost in the region?
Yeah, no one has really been able to put a good estimate on that at this point in time. I have, as I say, spoken to the association over the weekend and the Western Australian Ag Minister, Jackie Jarvis. I think it's just fair to say it's likely to be extensive, but it's a bit too early to tell exactly how much.
But do we know how much a household could probably get from this assistance, generally speaking?
Yeah, so the emergency assistance that's been announced today is intended as immediate, relatively small emergency assistance of about $200 per person, up to about $800 per household. But as the Prime Minister said, there's also assistance for things like house repairs, household contents, and in some cases that can be worth up to about $10,000 per household.
Just one further thing that's important that came up at the meeting was people getting mental health support. This has been a traumatic experience for people, and people are doing it tough, and we will have to ensure that every support is given in terms of counsellors being on the ground.
You said people are very keen to get back to some of those remote communities. The government is committed to reopening and rebuilding all of those communities. None of them have been wiped off the map forever because of this flood.
Yes, they want to go back to their communities. What needs to happen is the assessments done. but also making sure that power and other essentials are put back onto service.
How costly and difficult is the task of rebuilding going to be, and will the federal government stand by us in this tough time?
The federal government has stood by all communities who have suffered from natural disasters. There's been far too many of them, and one of the things that we know is that the science told us that there would be more extreme weather events and they'd be more intense and more often, and that is what unfortunately is playing out. We'll continue to stand by these communities. We'll work with state government, local government, and work with the communities themselves. There was a great spirit there in the meeting that was held today, and I really want to thank Senator Patrick Dodson as well for the work that he's done as a senator here, along with, of course, the members of the McGowan government.
Will there be federal funding for national roads that have been damaged?
There quite clearly will need to be some federal funding for, particularly the national network, the Great Northern Highway, I'm very familiar with, and that will require some federal government investment. There's been an enormous cost to the budget of natural disasters over the 7 months in which I've had the honour of serving as Prime Minister. Now into 5 states have suffered major natural disasters, of which this is a major event, 1 in 100 year, and the people on the ground and here in emergency services as well, who've lived in this community for a very long period of time, say that this is unprecedented. And when you go and look firsthand at the damage that was done, for example, to the bridges and the roads, you see the power of this water and the difference that it's made. What is extraordinary is that there isn't a greater human cost. You can rebuild roads, you can rebuild houses, you can't, of course, rebuild lives. And we need to, I think it is quite extraordinary that there has not been a more extreme human outcome as well.
Do you think that 1 in 100 year description is still accurate, given the number of major floods?
Well, I keep hearing this, whether it's here or the Riverland in South Australia that's still suffering, of course, from floods. The area around Forbes and other areas in New South Wales, Lismore in New South Wales, Rochester in Victoria, northern Tasmania. What we're seeing is these events, this is only 1/3 into the wet season, of course, as locals here would know. So that's something as well that in the briefing today we've received some caution about what's ahead as well, because we are still very much in the wet season, and that could have a further impact that we need to be mindful of as well. Thanks very much. Can I just say one thing about Brazil, which is there have been events in Brazil with action being taken after a democratic election was conducted and after President Lula was elected there in Brazil. The Australian government stands for democracies, and people should respect the outcome of elections, and the actions of a small number of people are condemned by the Australian government. We'll continue to convey our support to the government of Brazil at this difficult time.
Do you think the Bolsonaro supporters were inspired by January 6th in the US?
Oh, it's up to others to speculate. What's very clear, though, is that when democracies have elections, it's important that they be respected. And tragically, we've seen here actions that look a bit similar to what happened at the US Capitol building on January 6th after the election of President Biden. It's important that we respect democratic processes.
Yeah, any further questions for me?
Some residents or people in Fitzroy Crossing have been asking for utility bills to be put on hold. Is that something that could happen for them? Help them out?
Look, all those things we'll consider. Obviously, some of them have not been able to occupy their homes, and power's been turned off and water's been turned off to some of the homes. So all those things we'll consider. There's various payment arrangements and support we'll provide. We'll work through all those details as quickly as we can.
How do you plan to get the workers up here required to carry out this extensive?
Yeah, they are always issues. As you know, it's always difficult. But we'll work through as quickly as we can. I just urge people and ask people to be patient.
Only a fraction of the money assigned to cyclone erosion recovery efforts has been spent. I guess partly as a result of that. Are you confident that more of the money will flow quicker this time around?
Well, we do our best. It's also incumbent on people to apply. And so we need people to apply so we can assess and we can issue support. But there's a whole range of human factors in that. But we'll work through those issues in this case as well.
Just on that issue of workers, residents saying, well, if people do come to help rebuild our homes, where are they going to be? Where are those workers going to be?
They're
camp for them or something?
they are the logistic issues we need to address. The people who come in, the grader drivers and the cement mixers and the construction workers and so forth, need somewhere to stay as well. So it's a big exercise. It's not an overnight thing. I just urge people right at the beginning of the reconstruction to understand that this will take some time, and I just urge people to be patient. We'll be as quick as we can.
And we're rebuilding the bridge out of Fitzroy towards the NT. Will that be a priority?
It is a priority, but I just mentioned to you all, the wet season is not over, so there could still be further floods, and so that will take some months to actually get through the wet season before any such work could even take place. So these are the issues. There's other crossings that could be activated that we will look at, but it's a difficult and long process.
So other potential crossings into Fitzroy Crossing?
There is an old crossing that we're looking at as to whether that can be reactivated.
Do we have an update on Derby this afternoon? How's that town going in terms of supplies getting in and waters around the area? Whoever that's
I might, when you finish with me, I'll hand over to Minister Dawson. You finish with me?
Just in Fitzroy Crossing, is there an estimate of the number of houses that have been destroyed yet?
Well, damaged is more the point. That the estimate is about 100 was the estimate we were given this morning. And they are a community that adjoins Fitzroy Crossing, and certain parts of the township were inundated. But there's assessments going on how soon people can get back into those homes so that they can be re-inhabited. Some of the people who are stuck in Derby actually come from communities that weren't affected by the floods. So when we're saying we want to get people back home, it's often to communities that weren't affected by the floods, but they were in Derby at the time, over Christmas, New Year's, and now getting home. Sorry, they were in Fitzroy at the time. Now getting home is difficult. So there's evacuation measures to actually get people out of Fitzroy back to where they come from, because where they come from wasn't impacted by the floods.
Has any decision been made about people in the evacuation centre in Derby, putting them either in the Curtin Air Base or bringing people down here?
All those options are being looked at. People are being consulted about where they want to go. There's various accommodation arrangements in place. They're often very bespoke for the individuals involved.
Do you know how many remote communities have been heavily impacted by these floods?
We had 4 or 5 that were mentioned to us this morning, but the floods only just peaked at Willair and I think it was Pandanus Park last night, so the floods only really just gone through, so it's been an ongoing event now for some days.
Do you have any idea when road access to Fitzroy Crossing will be restored?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Prime Minister, can we just get
I'm just going to comment about the Derby. So in relation to Derby, truckloads of food was delivered to Derby on Saturday evening. We now have a barge with truckloads coming from Dampier. It will stop in Broome. It will get here Wednesday morning. We'll have a second one to get here Thursday. One of those will then go on to Derby with some extra supplies. Derby has not borne the brunt of the weather, thankfully. However, the water is starting to get to King's Sound, so we continue to monitor things like the airstrip in Derby to make sure that Derby that Derby is still accessible by air.
And all the bridges into Derby so far have been spared, I guess?
Certainly, the last information I had in relation to Willair Bridge is that has escaped relatively unscathed. Water has lapped the road at Cockatoo Creek Bridge, and so there could well be damage to a couple of other places along the road. So it's not just Fitzroy Crossing. A number of other places on the Great Northern Highway will have been impacted and damaged.
And that Cockatoo Creek Bridge, if that was damaged, is that on the only road you have?
They're all on the Great Northern Highway, so it all adds to the complexity of the situation.
So have any evacuees been brought down?
Yes, so if they've not arrived yet, the intention is to bring some people to Broome over the next kind of day or so. I'll also make the point that Rio Tinto reached out this morning. They have a 40-bed accommodation facility at Argyle Mine that they've offered to the state, to DFES, to either house people who have been evacuated, or potentially house workers if we get workers here to make to help with the recovery process.
And the people brought down to Broome, are they at Notre Dame Uni? Or
no, they'll be housed in hotels in the first instance. Notre Dame have obviously kindly reached out. It's likely that we will house potentially workers in Notre Dame. There's lots of volunteers, lots of workers from around the state, and then that will free up hotel rooms, and it's likely then that we would have more hotel rooms available for evacuees if needed.
And those evacuees are mostly from Fitzroy Crossing itself?
No, a range of places. So there were people in Fitzroy Crossing for the holidays. So some are from Fitzroy Crossing, some are visiting. Over the next few days and weeks, we'll also have a challenge of moving many people who are back in the region for holidays. So there are school kids there from Broome, from Perth, and indeed from Melbourne and other places over east. So as we get towards the end of school holidays, we'll also have to transport them out of Fitzroy Crossing to Broome so that they can continue their journey back to school for term one.
Are we out of the woods in terms of the floodwater at this point? Or is there still, worries over the next 24 hours?
Yeah, look, I think we'd certainly be more comfortable if there was another 24 hours ahead of us. As has been stated, Pandanus Park and Willair, it's only just really got to there. So let's get through to Tuesday night, and I think that then we'll really have some confidence around the peak of the floodwaters is past us. Yeah.
The Prime Minister mentioned in the briefing that it seems like there was talk about the impact of further heavy rains over the wet season. Can you talk through how big a concern that is?
Look, it is a real concern. We're talking about a completely saturated landscape out there, and when people get the opportunity to fly over it, they'll just see how much water is lying out there still. And that's going to take a long time to drain away, and any rain we get now between now and the end of the monsoon in sort of March, April is it's just going to go straight to flooding straight away rather than soaking into the ground. So we're really mindful of that, and there's potential for sort of a bit of a double hit on people if we if they go back into their homes and then they get flooded again. So.
Just for the concern, I mean, we see plenty of floods tragically even in our state, in eastern states, when there's flooding, lives are lost. We haven't lost any lives in these floods. Do you think that's a testament to the hard work of the response?
Look, we've certainly seen plenty of devastation across the Kimberley over the last few days, but I'm grateful that at this stage we've not seen any loss of life. People have worked incredibly hard over the past few days, and hopefully that is paying off. It is important to remember that ex-tropical cyclone took everybody by surprise. It hung around Fitzroy Crossing, circled Fitzroy Crossing kind of 3 times. It dropped a significant amount of rain and caused a significant amount of damage. And while a significant amount of flooding was expected, what was expected was similar to what we get every year at this time. So this has been unprecedented and extraordinary, and I am very grateful that that there has been no loss of life at this stage, and hopeful that it continues that way.
When do you think the government will have a time frame for how long it will take to rebuild the roads and houses?
Well, look, we do have the USAR Rapid Damage Assessment team on the ground now in Fitzroy Crossing, and they briefed us this morning. The Prime Minister or the Premier mentioned about 100 houses have been affected. That's their estimation. They will also work with the Army, so the Australian Defence Force are arriving, and they will help with the rapid damage assessment. Once that's done over the next few days, we'll have more of an idea about how long it might take. Main Roads have done some aerial viewing of the roads thus far. It's my understanding that engineers from Main Roads will be on the ground kind of the next couple of days. They will then assess the bridges and the roads. It is important though, as people have pointed out, there's still water on the road and it's still passing down the river, so only a limited number of I guess assessments can be done towards the end of the catchment. So that'll take towards the end of the week to finish.
Do you know the name of the old bridge into Fitzroy Crossing that they consider it?
I think it's probably called the old Fitzroy Bridge. So it went across the river to the old town site. But there has been spoken to us about. Main Roads certainly are aware of that, so they'll assess that too. It would need a bit of work, probably take weeks. Certainly would take weeks to assess and to get back to a standard that could be used. We are talking to the ADF and Brigadier Brett Challoner is here today about other options. What types of things can we use to help traverse the river in the absence of having a road? And so that work will continue over the next few days. They've obviously got experience in times of war, so they might have some good ideas and some good contacts for us to use for short-term fixes to help get people moving again.
And just on the 100 houses that are damaged, presumably some of that is state housing?
Look, I imagine the majority, probably, I've just reached out to Minister Carey to find out exactly how many, but around 80 to 85% of the housing in Fitzroy Crossing, it's my understanding, will be state housing, and so we're committed to making sure that gets back to a livable standard too.
So the government will replace that?
Yeah, look, talking to the Commonwealth about that, certainly with roads, Main Roads has been able to access DRFA funding previously. It's my understanding that we can access DRFA funding for housing too, so it is an opportunity to rebuild in those communities.
And last one quickly, can you explain the difference between the state Commonwealth disaster funding and the Lord Mayor's?
Sure. So the state, the DRFA is a program where the state and Commonwealth contribute in the order of 50% each. Now, if the spending on the ex-tropical cyclone is significant, the federal contribution can get up to about 75%. That's really for to help businesses, help people who've lost stuff. It's normally for things that are insurable. With the Lord Mayor's Distress Fund, that is managed by the Lord Mayor and an advisory body. So we've contributed $3 million into that. I understand the Commonwealth Bank has put money into it, as has the fund itself. That goes directly to, so it's the state government is not involved in the distribution of that money. That goes directly to affected people, and that goes in the form of payments. So that's kind of cash into people's banks to help them get their lives back on track as quickly as possible. No, the last I heard was, so $3 million from the state, $500,000 from the account, $50,000 from the Commonwealth Bank, and I understand I've spoken to some mining companies today who will make their own announcements over today and the next few days. We are hoping that Western Australians, and indeed all Australians, consider giving to these communities. There are many vulnerable people in these communities, and many people require extra assistance. So if you've got capacity to do it, please think about giving.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks, team.